Alright guys, TouchCobe back again today. Hope you're all enjoying your Friday so far. And tonight the New York home series begins. It's been a long couple of weekends. A lot of things have happened over the last couple of weekends. But today we finally get some Call of Duty back in action. Not exactly sure what the meta is going to look like yet. Over the last couple of days we talked about GAs potentially being broken. A lot of crazy stuff. Going to talk about Censor briefly as well in a couple of minutes time here. But intrigued to hear your thoughts down below. Who do you think is going to win the weekends? Like if you guys enjoy the video. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Let's talk about this Censor stuff then really quick. Because he does this tweet the other day. It's official. Signing the contract, you know, on the paper, if you guys are watching this from afar, you might think, yo, is he somehow back in the New York starting lineup? But it seems like he's managed to do something due to his contract. Though we've talked about these two-way contracts. Seems like he's managed to secure something with Triumph Gaming GG to join that squad. We talked about this team a while ago with, I think it was Fire sketching on Parasite's team to play with the Triumph guys. Seems like that could be the team that he's joining for an amateur side. Because, of course, you know, he was always talked about trying to make it back in the league, like winning champs, all this kind of stuff over the last couple of seasons. Hasn't worked out on the professional side. Now he's trying to at least make his name in the amateur scene. And, well, of course, everyone knows who Censor is, right? But at least prove his worth and potentially prove his worth next season in the professional scene to someone to, you know, give him a starting lineup opportunity once again. So I respect the grinds. And, well, as you see in this clip from a BZ when FaZe were streaming against them, you can see Nagafen, Royalty, I believe Standy, Censor, and Felony was the squad. So it seems like, well, I believe there's a salary for this squad. So maybe Doug is somehow raking in money from Triumph while also getting his New York salary. Not exactly sure how that works out, but clearly Censor's come to some sort of agreement because, as he says here, contract, it is official. Also, of course, this weekend, we don't know what the meta is going to look like. This came out from Joey Nubsy. Absolutely riveting meta we have here showing these 5 ARs that I did talk about yesterday as well. So how's that going to affect this weekend? Who really knows? But let's talk about it. This is the standings as they sit right now. So FaZe, Mutineers, Huntsman, Empire. So FaZe and Huntsman are here this weekend. So are Rocker, Royal Ravens, Subliners, no OpTic Gaming, but Paris, Los Angeles Gorillas, and the Toronto Ultra are here as well. These are the teams as of course, so you see them on screen right now. As of recording, Toronto haven't made any announcement, but it is rumoured that Classic is back in the starting lineup for Metal, so that may well be the case, but that doesn't really change my opinion on this team on the whole. I'm still kind of promising, or I still think they're going to be kind of promising this weekend, as we will talk about. So here we go then. This is the bracket build. I'll leave this linked down below for you guys if you want to test it out yourselves as well. So these are the first round matchups, and let's just dive into things right here with Group A. Paris versus Ultra. Now, Paris are a team, it's pretty interesting. Obviously, we have to talk to some degree about this 2AR meta, how it could affect some teams or, you know, benefit some teams worse than other teams. But I think Toronto Ultra are just too good right now. I do like the clean exchange they made, bringing Classic back for Metals. Might make some difference, especially if Classic's going to go on to that second AR, which may make sense. He's had some good success with that in the past. Remember the Rampart, of course, in Black Ops 4 and the MV4 from the Infinite Warfare days. So I think this series goes to Toronto in something like a 3-1 fashion. I've kind of high hopes for this team to do something reasonable this weekend. Then we have Game 2, FaZe versus Gorillas. And this is really exciting, right? Because we have this whole thing around FaZe potentially using the AUG, and then LAG and Aqua saying like he's going to undo or like auto tac sprint. He's going to use that. They're going to be pulling out multiple smokes that they shouldn't be using. So all the GAs could potentially go to Chaos, which says to me, if everything's going like completely crazy, it's probably going to go to a Game 5. And if it does go to a Game 5, like who do you even predict, right? Because LAG are so good at their search and destroy, but it's just impossible to predict against Atlanta FaZe, I believe, in a search. So I'm going to take Atlanta FaZe in a 3-2. Honestly, you can take Atlanta FaZe in a 3-2 versus any team in the game right now, and it wouldn't be a surprise, especially how they've played the previous weekends. Like, they go into the weekend looking like favourites or looking very good. They managed to scrape their way through to a grand finals in 3-2 fashions, and, well, they fall short in the grand finals, most recently to Florida Mutineers, of course. So then Group B, honestly, this is kind of a stacked one, right? You've got Royal Ravens versus Huntsman. These are two teams that I think should step up their game with the 2AR meta, but as of late in scrims, Huntsman have been doing very good, especially in their hardpoints. And, well, when we saw this matchup in the grand finals of the event, though, it was like a month and a bit ago now, but they matched up in the grand finals. It went in a 3-1 fashion then. I imagine something similar happens here, because Huntsman's hardpoint looks very solid right now against pretty much any team in the game. And even with London, with this, you know, maybe they have Shawnee on the AR as well, but I just think that RCC's formal combo on the ARs, on the M4s, could be very deadly for the Huntsman indeed. And I expect their hardpoint to continue on its strength that it has been for the last several weeks. So I think Huntsman win this in a 3-1 fashion. Then you've got Subliners Rocker, and this is somewhat tough to predict because Alex comes back into the starting lineup here for the Minnesota Rocker, but how much does that affect them? Honestly, this team with the 2AR meta should be probably slightly better. Then you look at the Subliners and you think, well, does it really affect that team too much? Maybe not. So I think Rocker could get somewhat better. I would not be surprised at all if it goes to a Game 5 here. I'm actually going to take Minnesota Rocker to win a Game 5. Probably a stupid prediction, to be honest, given their, they luck in Game 5s, or at least their clutch factor has not been good, but I fancy them making something happen early on here. Then let's go down to the losers. So Legion Gorillas up in Group A. I think the Gorillas get the better of them here. I just think they're too good right now. I might take it in a 3-1, potentially a 3-2, but Gorillas look kind of strong. You've got Aqua maybe and Blaz both on this ARs right now, which probably should help this team to some degree. Maybe Paris can also be helped, but I really do favour Gorillas in the Search and Destroy, so if it even does go to Game 5, which, kind of likely that it would do, then they're still going to win anyway, in my opinion. So it's a 3-1 or 3-2 for me, for the Los Angeles Gorillas. Then you've got Royal Ravens Subliners, and honestly, I'm going to predict the Royal Ravens to win this. A lot of this is on the back, really, and I'm going to take a 3-2, pretty close series. I don't think London are going to get through this series very easily at all if they do. And obviously, predicting Subliners to go out top 8 here is probably an upset, right? Certainly an upset. Then again, this group is pretty stacked, so it's difficult to predict one way or another. But I do think that Royal Ravens, with these 2 SMG or 2 ARs now in hand, should be stepped up to some significant degree. And we'll have to see how we feel like it's going to go from here on out. Then you've got Atlanta FaZe Toronto Ultra, and I'm just going to take this one in a 3-2. I think they matched up a while ago, went to Game 5, FaZe won it. Definitely you could take FaZe in a different fashion here, but I think Ultra are a solid team, and I'm going to take them to take down the Gorillas as well. Going to say this is a 3-1, because if it goes Game 5, I really don't fancy Ultra winning it, because their clutch factor, similar to Minnesota Rocker really, has not been good so far this season, but I do think they definitely have some capability. So I'm going to take FaZe and Ultra to get out of the Group 1. I predicted Ultra to do a couple of things a couple of times now. They haven't quite made it work, but they seem like they were just on the hump of, getting over the line and having a really decent performance. So I'm going to take them to make it out of the group this time. Then you've got Huntsman Rocker. I think this is certainly a 3-1, maybe even a 3-0, who knows. Definitely Rocker can be solid here, but I do feel like Huntsman's hardpoint is just too strong right now, and if they can start winning their Search and Destroys, I think Rocker are going to have a very, very hard time indeed winning this series. So I'm going to take the Huntsman to get out of this group. Then you've got Rocker Royal Ravens, and I do fancy the Royal Ravens to get through this one. Maybe something like a 3-1. I'm going to take Royal Ravens to do a pretty nice losers bracket run, getting through Subliners and the Minnesota Rocker to make it out. And, a lot of this is down to, I listened to Shawnee most recently on the Bakery podcast, and he was talking about how, he really feels like they're in a good spot to win at least one of the last few events of the season. And now, of course, this 2AR meta's come into play, probably plays into their hands even better. So I'm probably being influenced to some degree by what Shawnee had to say on the podcast. Of course, every player is going to say something to that effect, but I feel like maybe it's the time this weekend. However, when we go to the semi-finals, things get significantly more difficult for the Royal Ravens, because they have to play up against Atlanta FaZe. And regardless of the situation, I am going to take FaZe here. I'm honestly going to do it once again in a Game 5, because every single time, I'm pretty sure last event I predicted FaZe to win 3 Game 5s in a row to make it to the Grand Finals, and they did exactly that. So I'm just going to do it again, and I'm going to say they win all their Game 5s, because this is a very, very tough team to beat in Game 5, and they're very, very versatile in the meta. Honestly, who really knows right now what exactly they're going to be using? Are they going to be using the Orgs? Scraps clearly wasn't particularly happy about it, as we talked on, we talked in a video a couple of days ago when he had that discussion with Abeezy. But, once again, it could be a crazy series, and if it's a crazy series, I'm going to predict a Game 5, and if it's a Game 5, FaZe are going to win. Then you've got Huntsman versus Ultra, and I think that Huntsman do get through this one. I'm actually going to take this in a Game 5. I think that sometimes the Huntsman can underestimate certain competition. I don't think they'll underestimate these first 2 matches, but against Ultra, they might think, this could be kind of easy going. I think Ultra can take at least 1 respawn off them, maybe in the domination or something like that, because Ultra's domination is certainly very good on a map like Hackney Yard if we manage to go there. But I definitely think the Huntsman win at least one of the hard points, if not both. And if it does go to a Game 5, I do actually fancy Huntsman to close this one out and clutch up, because that's the thing with Huntsman that we've talked about with this new squad. If they can start winning their Search and Destroys, then they can genuinely be a championship contender again against teams like Atlanta FaZe and Florida Mutineers and the Dallas Empire. But if they can't start winning those Game 5 Search and Destroys, they're not going to have much of a chance against a team like FaZe and teams that are like that are very, very good at getting into Game 5. And if Huntsman do win this one, I'm actually going to take Huntsman to win the Grand Finals in a 3-1 here, because FaZe, when they get to Grand Finals, honestly, so far this season, have been pretty underwhelming. They get there in some sort of fashion, somewhere or another, but when they get to the Grand Finals, last couple of times, they've actually been kind of smoked, right? Especially by the Florida Mutineers last time out. So I'm going to take the Huntsman to win this in a 3-1 if it does go down this way. It's difficult to predict this weekend, but I do think the Huntsman have been looking very good lately. And if they're probably going to have to win at least 1 Game 5, I would imagine, if they want to win the weekend. And if they do manage to do that, they're in a great spot to do so, because I think FaZe, they're not exactly in the greatest state right now. Maybe they're going to be stepped up to another degree. But honestly, a lot of these predictions comes down to my thoughts on how the meta is going to evolve this weekend, and who knows what's going to happen with all the potential all coming into play, and the GAs could go to chaos. I'm sure we'll talk about that tomorrow when we recap today's games. Intrigued to hear your thoughts down below. This is my prediction, and this is what the schedule looks like. So 4 PM Eastern Time, 9 PM BST, where I am, and 1 PM in the Pacific. Ultra Ultra, or, you know, not in the middle of the Pacific, but you know what I mean. Ultra versus Paris Legion. That's where it all kicks off. Same sort of story on Saturday to what we've seen in previous events. So 1 p.m. Eastern time start, and then Sunday it starts at 4 p.m. with the Warzone weekend kicking off just before that. Thanks to Midnight.com for sponsoring today's video. Like if you guys enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Make sure you don't miss any of the latest Call of Duty competitive updates coming this weekend. I'll see you next time.